The lobby of Hailtech Tower gleamed like a glass palace, flooded with white light that bounced off marble floors and steel elevator doors. The centerpiece of it all stood quietly near the center, almost like a shrine. A grand piano, sleek and black as midnight, cordoned off by a velvet rope and a single sign that read, "Do not touch." Nathan Carter stood with his mop and bucket, eyes fixed on the instrument. It was breathtaking. A rare Bosendorfer, easily worth more than everything he owned. His fingers twitched involuntarily. Old muscle memory stirred like a ghost in his hands. "Don't even think about it," said Mel, the overnight security guard, passing by with a cup of coffee. "Last guy who dusted it without asking? Fired. On the spot." Nathan blinked and gave a quiet nod, going back to mopping the far side of the lobby. But he couldn't stop glancing back. Behind the towering glass walls, the city lights of Manhattan flickered like stars. It was past 11 p.m., the building quiet, save for the soft hum of lights and the distant click of high heels upstairs. Nathan's daughter, Lily, 6 years old and full of questions, was curled up on a bench in the corner of the lobby, wrapped in a patchy blanket. Her curly hair spilled over her cheeks as she dozed off, thumb tucked under her chin, backpack beside her. She'd begged to come with him again tonight, not wanting to be left with the cranky neighbor upstairs. He checked on her gently, pulling the blanket higher. From the top floor, a figure watched him through the glass balcony. Olivia Hale, CEO of Hailtech, stood with a tablet in hand, reviewing reports, her expression blank as usual. She noticed the janitor glance at the piano again. Her eyes narrowed slightly. She'd seen that look before. People always looked at the piano like it was a prize, possession, something to play, to conquer. But not him. He looked like he missed it. Her fingers tightened on the tablet. She turned away. Back downstairs, Nathan finished mopping and walked quietly past the piano. He paused, just for a second. He reached out, not to touch the keys, but to brush off a thin layer of dust on the lid with his cloth. That's when he saw it, barely visible under the piano bench. A folded piece of yellowing paper, edges curled with age. Curiosity got the best of him. He picked it up. Music notation. A handwritten title at the top. For Olivia. His breath caught. The notes were delicate, flowing, the script sharp and emotional. It wasn't printed. It was personal. He glanced toward the elevators. No one. Only silence. Nathan sat on the piano bench, careful not to make a sound. His fingers hovered over the keys. No. He stood back up and folded the sheet neatly. He didn't want trouble. He'd learned to keep his head down long ago. Later, as he finished waxing the floors, Lily stirred and sat up, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy?" she mumbled. "Is that a real piano?" Nathan smiled, crouching down beside her. "Yeah, baby. A real one. Do you play?" He hesitated. "I used to. Why'd you stop?" He glanced toward the glass balcony, toward the piano, then back at her. "Sometimes life makes us forget the songs we used to know." Lily tilted her head. "You should play again." He kissed her forehead gently. "Maybe someday." Upstairs, Olivia was still working, though her mind wasn't on the graphs and numbers anymore. She opened the bottom drawer of her desk, pulling out a framed photo, her and Daniel, his hand on her waist, a smile in his eyes, the piano behind them. He'd written her that song. For Olivia. He never got to play it for her. She closed her eyes. The elevator dinged softly down below. She rose and turned off the light. Nathan always cleaned in rhythm. Not to music exactly. He hadn't heard real music in years, but to the rhythm in his bones, in the silent beats that had once filled concert halls and practice rooms. His mop glided across the marble as if tracing notes no one else could hear. Lily, curled up on the bench once more, hummed herself back to sleep. He smiled softly. She had perfect pitch. Like her mother. The folded music sheet, for Olivia, rested in his back pocket, weighing more than paper should. Something about it called to him. The notes were beautiful, familiar in a way that tugged at the edges of memory. He hadn't played a single note since the accident. since his wife, Emma, had passed, since his world had gone quiet. But tonight, something was different. Nathan glanced toward the cameras in the corner of the ceiling. Still off, at least for now. Security upgrades were slow around here, especially on night shifts. He'd been told cameras would be installed next week for months. He set his mop aside and walked to the piano again. It was strange, how sacred this thing felt, like approaching a grave. The velvet rope hung loosely. Carefully, he unhooked one side and stepped into the circle, heart pounding. He sat. The bench creaked softly beneath him. He lifted the lid slowly, the keys winking up at him under the dim lights. Clean, untouched, waiting. He didn't press them yet. Instead, he unfolded the music sheet and placed it on the stand. His eyes traced the familiar notation. A soft C chord, then E minor, G, F. His fingers rose, trembling. Then, gently, he played the first 4 bars. A warm, aching melody filled the air, soft as breath, delicate as snowfall. He didn't go past the first verse, just enough to hear it sing, enough to remember what it felt like. The sound died away, echoing faintly into the silence. Nathan stood, heart thudding. He closed the lid, folded the sheet, and stepped back. Behind him, the elevator lights flickered on. He froze. Someone was coming down. Up on the 28th floor, Olivia Hale stood in her darkened office, still dressed in a tailored navy pantsuit, heels kicked off beside her desk. She leaned against the glass, looking down into the lobby. She'd heard it. It wasn't possible. Those notes. No one had played them in 5 years. She'd forbidden it. The sheet music had been locked away, untouchable like everything else from her past. And yet, someone had played them. She moved to her desk, clicked her monitor, and pulled up the building's surveillance feed. A handful of cameras rotated between hallways, elevators, and offices. But not the lobby. Still not installed. Her lips tightened. She picked up the office phone. "Security," she said coolly. A voice on the other end answered sleepily. "Yes, Ms. Hale? I want those lobby cameras installed. By morning. No more delays." A pause. Understood. She hung up, her heart still racing from the melody. She told herself she was imagining it. But the sound had been real. Back downstairs, Nathan had already resumed cleaning when the elevator opened. A young exec in a wrinkled suit stepped out, clearly half drunk, muttering something about client folders. He didn't notice Nathan. Didn't see Lily sleeping. Nathan exhaled slowly. He wouldn't make the same mistake again. He looked once more at the folded sheet in his hand, then tucked it deep into his bag. He zipped it shut. The music was still in his head, and he wasn't sure that was a good thing. Later that night, Lily stirred. Her eyes opened halfway, still heavy with sleep. "Daddy, were you playing the piano?" Nathan looked at her, startled. She smiled. It sounded nice. He hesitated, then nodded once. Just for a moment. Lily sat up. "Was it a sad song?" Nathan tilted his head. "Why do you ask?" "Because it made my tummy feel tight," she whispered, pressing her little hand to her chest. "Like when I miss Mommy." Nathan swallowed hard and hugged her close. "That's music, baby. It remembers things we try to forget." The next day, Olivia arrived before dawn, dressed in black slacks and a silk blouse. Her hair was pulled into a tight bun, as always. Her heels clicked through the empty lobby. She paused at the piano. No sign of disturbance. She touched the lid lightly. The warmth in her chest from last night flared again, sharp and confusing. Something had shifted, but she wasn't ready to name it. Not yet. By the time Nathan arrived for his next shift, the piano was surrounded by something new. Cameras. 3 of them, positioned from above and each corner of the lobby, now pointed straight at the Grand Bosendorfer like it was evidence in a crime scene. Nathan paused as he wheeled in his cleaning cart. The velvet rope still hung loosely around the piano, but the presence of those silent, blinking red lights told him all he needed to know. Someone knew. He turned to Lily, holding her hand tightly as they crossed the marble floor. "Tonight," he said softly. No detours near the piano, she pouted. Not even to peek? Not even to breathe near it. They found their quiet corner. Lily laid out her blanket and small coloring book. Nathan pulled out his mop, filling the bucket like always, but this time, something inside him felt heavier. The music from the night before lingered like perfume in a locked room. He hadn't played much, just a few bars. But something about it, the feel of the keys, the sound in the empty space, had woken something up. Something he'd buried with Emma. Upstairs, Olivia watched from her office once again. But tonight she wasn't reading reports. She sat on the edge of her desk, tablet dark, eyes locked on the security feed from camera 4. The piano view. She'd replayed the footage from last night at least 10 times. There was no audio, just a time-stamped clip of Nathan sitting at the piano, fingers hovering, playing 4 short bars, and then stopping, walking away. He hadn't looked around, hadn't smiled, hadn't played it like someone stealing a moment of fun. He played it like someone who knew the song, and that disturbed her, because no one else should have known it. 5 years ago, her fiancé Daniel had written for Olivia while sitting at that very piano. He called it his gift, a surprise to be played at their wedding reception. She'd never heard it in full. He died in a car crash 2 nights before their ceremony. The sheet music was never found. Until now, she paced. Her head told her to fire Nathan immediately, but her heart, the fragile part she kept buried beneath CEO confidence, whispered something else. Wait. Back in the lobby, Nathan was scrubbing the windows near the piano when his foot hit something hard beneath the bench. Again. This time it wasn't sheet music. It was a small, lacquered wooden box, no larger than a shoe. Curious, and wary of the new cameras, Nathan glanced around before sliding it free. It looked old, hand-carved, with initials DH etched on the bottom corner. He lifted the lid. Inside, pages, dozens of handwritten sheets, all in the same familiar script. Songs, chord progressions, lyrics in half-finished lines. At the very top, the same title, For Olivia, full composition. Nathan's chest tightened. This was more than music. This was love frozen in time. He should have handed it over. But instead, he tucked the box into his bag and moved quickly back to the janitor's closet, heart pounding. Later that night, Lily was curled up asleep again, but Nathan couldn't rest. He sat alone in the break room, the box open on the table in front of him, flipping through Daniel's notes. Every page told a story. Verses about late-night rooftop dancing, about olive-colored eyes and silent snowfall, about someone he loved more than life. He didn't know Olivia well, only the headlines and hallway whispers, but now he could hear what Daniel had heard in her. A woman who inspired music. He'd lost someone too. He understood this grief. And the piano, it wasn't just an instrument. It was a memorial. Olivia stayed later than usual, past midnight. The building was mostly dark, but she needed to know more. She'd printed a full background check on Nathan. It had taken hours to dig, but finally she found it. Nathan Carter, former child prodigy, accepted into Juilliard at 15, withdrew 2 years later, married young, left music after his wife's sudden illness and death. He'd disappeared from public view. Until now, why would someone like him be mopping floors in her building? Unless he was hiding, just like her. The next morning, Nathan stepped off the elevator with Lily, just as Olivia was entering from the side corridor. They nearly collided. Nathan immediately stood straighter. "Good morning, ma'am," he said quickly. Olivia's eyes flicked to Lily, then back to him. "Have you touched the piano again?" Nathan hesitated. "No, ma'am." "Have you removed anything from it?" He swallowed. "Just trash. I didn't mean any harm." Olivia's eyes narrowed. "There was a box under the bench. A gift. I'd forgotten it existed." Nathan's heart jumped. She paused, then added more quietly, "It belonged to someone I lost." Nathan nodded slowly. "I'm sorry." They stood in silence. Lily, innocent as ever, broke it. "Are you the lady from the song?" Olivia looked down. "What?" The one he wrote the song for. For Olivia. That's you, right? Olivia stared, stunned. Nathan gently tugged Lily's hand. We should get to work. Olivia didn't stop them, but her voice followed him softly. He played it, didn't he? Nathan turned. Just a few notes. Then, after a pause, he added, but it was enough to remember something beautiful. Olivia didn't speak again, but she watched him for a long time. The morning sunlight spilled across Olivia Hale's glass office, bathing her in warmth she hardly noticed. Her desk was cluttered for once. Not with spreadsheets or financial reports, but with something far more personal. Daniel Hale's music journal, Nathan Carter's personnel file, and a yellow sticky note she kept forgetting to throw away. He played it, didn't he? She ran a fingertip over the faded sheet music from the box Nathan had clearly returned, for Olivia. It was all there, the full version. The same song she never got to hear live. Now, years later, it had somehow found its way back into her life, through the quiet hands of a janitor. And Olivia needed to know why. Downstairs, Nathan cleaned in silence. Last night's conversation with Olivia lingered in his mind. He knew he'd crossed a line, not by playing the piano, but by awakening something she'd buried. He hadn't meant to cause pain, just couldn't help it. He was careful to keep Lily far from the lobby now. She stayed in the break room with her coloring books and snacks, humming made-up tunes to herself. He scrubbed, mopped, kept his head down, but he felt her watching again. Olivia. At exactly 6 p.m., she called down to Human Resources. I want to speak with Nathan Carter, she said. The HR rep stammered. Is something wrong, Ms. Hale? Just send him up. Nathan entered her office in his cleanest janitor uniform, freshly ironed. His shoulders were broad but humble, his expression unreadable. Olivia didn't look up right away. She let the silence stretch. Finally, she said, Why are you really here, Mr. Carter? He frowned. To clean, ma'am. I don't believe that. His eyes flicked toward the piano sheet on her desk. I ran your background, she continued. Juilliard. Carnegie debut at 17. Dropped off the map at 19. No explanation. No scandal. No music. And now, here you are, waxing my floors. Nathan stood still. I didn't ask to be looked into. No, you didn't, she replied. But you should have expected it after playing that song. A pause. Nathan finally said, I wasn't trying to make trouble. Olivia folded her arms. You knew the melody. How? He exhaled. I found the sheet under the piano. I recognized the signature Daniel Hale. I only played a few bars. Did you know who he was to me? Nathan hesitated. I figured it out when I saw the title. For Olivia. Olivia's jaw tightened. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He was the only person who ever made me feel seen. And when he died, the music died with him. Nathan didn't respond. He couldn't. He knew that kind of loss. You're not just a janitor, she added. So why are you doing this? Why are you here? Nathan finally lifted his gaze. Because it's the only job that let me bring my daughter at night, he said simply. Because I needed the quiet. Because I thought I'd forgotten how to live. A long silence passed. Olivia's features softened slightly. And now, Nathan looked toward the piano visible through her glass wall. Now I'm not so sure. Later that night, Olivia stayed behind again, but this time she didn't go to her office. She stayed in the lobby. She sat on the piano bench alone, Daniel's sheet music in her hands. She didn't play. She just stared. The song he wrote, for Olivia, had lyrics scribbled in the margins she'd never seen before. When you look away, I forget how to breathe. But when you smile, the sky writes our melody. She pressed her palm to her chest. She had spent years building walls, closing off the part of her heart that once fluttered every time Daniel walked into a room. And now a stranger, a janitor, had broken that silence with 4 soft bars. Back in the break room, Nathan stared at the old photo he kept tucked in his wallet. Emma, holding newborn Lily. Her smile soft, her eyes tired but full of love. He whispered, I played M. He felt ridiculous talking to a picture. But not really. I didn't want to, but I heard something in it, that song. And now I can't unhear it. He closed his eyes. Music had always come easily to him. But after losing Emma, every key had sounded hollow. Until that night in the lobby. Until he played Daniel's song. Until he saw the way Olivia looked at him. Like she didn't know whether to fire him or thank him. The next evening, as he and Lily entered the lobby, Nathan was surprised to find Olivia already there, waiting beside the piano. Lily tugged his hand. Is she mad at us? No, baby, Nathan whispered. I think she's remembering something. Olivia met his gaze, then glanced at Lily and gave her a small, quiet smile. Then she looked back at Nathan. I've decided not to install audio on the cameras, she said, voice cool and even. Nathan tilted his head. You can play again, she continued. If, and only if, it's after hours and no one else is here. Nathan nodded slowly. Thank you. Olivia hesitated. Then, in a voice so soft he almost didn't hear it, don't stop where he left off. Then she turned and walked away. Nathan returned to the lobby that night with his heart pounding louder than any song he'd ever played. The building was silent. Lily had fallen asleep early, curled up with her stuffed animal and sketchpad in the break room. The hallways were dim. The lights above the piano glowed softly, like the stage lights he used to stand beneath, long before his world collapsed. He approached the Bosendorfer like a friend he hadn't seen in years. Carefully, reverently, he lifted the lid again. His fingers hovered over the keys. He could still hear Olivia's voice from earlier. Don't stop where he left off. The words had startled him, not because of what she said, but because of what she meant. She was giving him permission not just to play the music, but to continue it, to change it, to let it live. He unfolded Daniel's full composition from his bag and studied it again. The melody was stunning, but unfinished. It trailed off near the final stanza like a sentence abandoned mid-thought. Nathan closed his eyes and began to play. The melody poured out like water from a broken dam. Rich, gentle notes swelled through the marble lobby. His fingers moved freely, old muscle memory blending seamlessly with new emotion. He played Daniel's chords but added flourishes of his own. He stretched moments, bent the timing, pulled the rhythm forward and back like breathing. This wasn't just a performance. It was a conversation between two men, one dead, one grieving, through music and memory and the woman they both somehow knew. Nathan finished the last line and let the final note ring into silence. He sighed. A small tear slipped from his eye, though he didn't know why. Then clapping. Slow, sharp, controlled. He turned, startled. Olivia, standing across the lobby in a sleek coat, arms crossed, eyes locked on him. He stood up quickly. Ms. Hale, I didn't know you were here. You didn't? She said, stepping closer. Her heels echoed softly on the marble. Nathan braced for the worst. Had she changed her mind? Olivia walked slowly, deliberately, stopping a few feet from him. You changed the last part, she said quietly. He nodded. It felt like he left it open for someone else to finish. A beat passed. You think you can finish it? She asked. Nathan met her eyes. No, but I think maybe you can. Olivia blinked. Me? You knew him. You inspired him. I just read the notes. You lived the lyrics. The silence between them stretched, electric. I'm not a musician, she said, almost bitterly. But you're the reason the music exists at all, he said gently. Olivia stepped closer to the piano and brushed her fingertips along the lid. I haven't sat at this piano since the night he died. Nathan said nothing. He was supposed to play it at our wedding, she whispered. His last text said, the song's ready. It's you in every note. Her voice cracked on the word you. Nathan stayed still, just listening. Olivia looked at him with glassy eyes. And then he was gone, just like that. No goodbye, no music, just silence. Nathan nodded slowly. I know what that kind of silence feels like. Their eyes locked, grief meeting grief. recognition in shared loss. That night, something shifted. They didn't speak again. Olivia turned and left without another word. But Nathan knew. She wasn't angry. She was hurting. And maybe she didn't want to hurt alone anymore. The next few nights, Nathan continued to play. After hours, once Lily was asleep, he'd sit at the piano, reading more of Daniel's notes, adding to them carefully. Not rewriting, just breathing new life into the pieces. Olivia didn't come down again, but he knew she was listening. Sometimes, he'd glance up toward the glass railing above the lobby and see her silhouette, frozen in place, motionless as a statue, watching from the shadows. And sometimes he'd play softer, just for her. One night, a week later, Lily tugged Nathan's sleeve while he cleaned near the elevators. "Daddy, can I draw the piano?" He smiled. "Of course." She went quiet for a moment, then added, "Can I draw her too?" "Who?" he asked. "The lady with the sad eyes. The one who always watches you from up there." Nathan looked up toward the glass balcony. Olivia stood there, silent and still, watching. He felt his throat tighten. "Yeah, baby, I think she'd like that." Later that night, after the building had emptied, Olivia found something sitting on her desk. A child's drawing, done in crayon and colored pencil. The piano, Nathan, Lily, and Olivia, standing nearby, her hand resting gently on the piano's lid. A small smile on her face. Above them, in big, crooked letters, "The song makes her smile again." Olivia didn't cry, but her hand trembled as she placed the drawing inside her drawer. The morning after Lily's drawing appeared on Olivia's desk, the office was unusually quiet. Assistants walked on eggshells. Board members kept their distance. Olivia Hale, always the sharpest mind in the building, was distracted. She canceled 2 meetings, rescheduled a third, and didn't speak during her morning strategy call. She barely touched her coffee. Her executive assistant noticed, but didn't dare ask. At 11 a.m., Olivia shut her laptop and stood at the window overlooking the city. One hand was in her pocket. The other rested on the back of her desk chair, fingers curling and uncurling. She'd stared at Lily's drawing 3 times already that morning. Each time, something in her chest cracked a little more. Back in the janitor's closet, Nathan wiped his hands on a rag and exhaled. He hadn't seen Olivia since that night she caught him playing. No words, no direct contact, but he felt her. In the way the piano bench was always left slightly off-center now, as if someone else had been sitting on it. In the way her lights turned off just after his last chord each night. He thought about speaking to her. He thought about saying more, but something held him back. Maybe it was respect. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was knowing she needed to come to the music on her own. That evening, Olivia stayed late. The office emptied floor by floor until it was only her again, the way it had been for 5 years. She stood outside her office, holding Daniel's journal in one hand and Lily's drawing in the other. She walked to the elevator and pressed the button. Nathan was at the piano. He wasn't playing, not yet. Just sitting, thinking. The sheet music was open in front of him, half-marked with penciled notes and gentle revisions. Lily was asleep, curled up nearby, thumb in her mouth, her little fingers holding onto her blanket. The elevator doors slid open behind him. He didn't turn around. He knew who it was. She approached quietly. No heels tonight, just soft footsteps and the scent of jasmine and something cool, like rain on glass. Olivia stood beside the piano. She didn't speak. Nathan finally turned to her. "I didn't mean to keep playing," he said, "but something in the music, it doesn't let go." Olivia stared down at the keys. "That's how love works," she said. "It leaves echoes in everything." Nathan closed the lid gently. "You're not ready." She shook her head. "I wasn't, until now." She sat beside him. Their shoulders barely touched, but the silence between them was no longer cold. Nathan watched her fingers hover above the keys. Unsure, hesitant, trembling slightly. "I don't know how to play," she whispered. "Then don't think about playing," he said. "Think about feeling." He took her hand. moved it gently to the first note. C, he said softly. Her finger pressed it down. The tone echoed, warm and clean. Now E, he guided. Then G, a simple C major chord. She flinched at how rich it sounded. The vibration felt like it entered her bones. That's all it takes to begin, he said. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. For the next half hour, they sat side by side. Nathan guided her through the opening bars of For Olivia. Slowly, patiently, never pushing too hard. Just enough for her to remember what the music once meant. She pressed each key like it was a memory she wasn't sure she wanted to awaken. And with every note, her breathing deepened. She didn't cry, not yet, but when they reached the middle of the piece, the part Daniel had marked her light, Olivia froze. I can't, she whispered. Nathan didn't move. You already did. She turned to him. What if finishing it means letting go? Nathan's gaze was steady. Or what if it means starting again? The room grew quiet. She stood, unable to sit any longer, the weight of 5 years pressing down on her chest. I blamed myself, she said suddenly, for his death, for rushing him, for making him feel like the song had to be perfect. Nathan shook his head. He wrote it because he loved you, not because you asked for it. She laughed bitterly. That's the thing. I never asked. I didn't think I needed a song. I just needed him. Nathan stood slowly. And now you need the song. Because it's what's left. A long silence passed between them. Then Olivia whispered, Will you help me finish it? He didn't hesitate. Yes. That night the music stopped. Not because it was over, but because it had begun again. The next morning, the building buzzed with rumors. Olivia Hale smiled during a board meeting. She wore a soft blue blouse instead of her usual black. She even laughed, once. No one knew why. Only one man did. And he didn't say a word. 2 weeks passed. The piano in the lobby no longer sat untouched like a monument to grief. Now it was a living thing. Keys pressed in the quiet hours, chords echoing through marble halls. But only at night. Only in secret. Nathan played most evenings. And some nights, Olivia joined him. Their lessons were quiet. No cameras. No interruptions. No need for permission anymore. At first, she was stiff, her hands awkward, her tempo uneven. But the music changed her posture, softened her edges. Each chord she struck seemed to unearth something buried. A memory, a piece of herself. Nathan never rushed her. He let her discover the music at her own pace, the way she had to discover herself again. One night, during a lesson, Lily sat nearby, swinging her legs and scribbling in her sketchbook. Olivia asked, mid-practice, What's she always drawing? Nathan smiled. You. Olivia paused. Why? She says you look like someone from a storybook. But sad. Olivia blinked. She's very observant. Nathan shrugged. She's seen sadness before. A silence settled between them, not heavy, but respectful. Then Olivia turned back to the keys. Show me the bridge again. A few days later, Haletech hosted its annual employee gala. It was a formal, extravagant affair, held in the penthouse ballroom. Champagne flowed, jazz played, executives mingled with clients in tuxedos and glittering gowns. Nathan, of course, wasn't invited. He stayed downstairs, finishing his rounds. But when Lily tugged on his shirt and asked, Why don't we ever go to the parties? Something tugged at his chest. He looked down at his janitor's uniform, his scuffed shoes, his calloused hands. We're not those kinds of people, he said gently. Lily frowned. But you play the prettiest music. Nathan smiled sadly. That's not always enough. Upstairs, Olivia stood by the grand window, watching the city lights. She wore a deep emerald gown, soft velvet with a low back, and her hair was curled loose for the first time in years. Everyone who saw her whispered that she looked different, lighter, less ice queen, more woman. But Olivia wasn't listening to them. She was thinking about the man who wasn't invited. the one who had taught her to breathe through music again. She moved to the podium, tapped the mic once. The jazz band lowered their instruments. All eyes turned to her. "I want to thank all of you for coming," she began. "This year has been full of challenges, but also full of change." People nodded, some politely, some just waiting for the wine to resume. She continued, "I'd like to close the night with something personal, a piece I haven't been able to hear or share for a long time." Then she turned to the pianist in the band. "Would you mind giving up your seat?" The man looked confused, but moved aside. Olivia walked to the baby grand in the center of the ballroom. People murmured. She sat, took a breath, and began to play the opening bars of For Olivia. Downstairs, Nathan heard the music over the speaker system in the break room. He froze mid-mop. That was her, playing their piece. He ran to the security monitor. The ballroom feed was live. He watched as Olivia's fingers danced across the keys, shaky, but sure, emotional, brave. And then, halfway through the song, she paused, lifted her gaze to the ballroom doors. Everyone turned to look. Nathan stood in the doorway, in his uniform, still breathless. Olivia didn't smile. She didn't need to. She just said, into the microphone, "Let him play." The crowd parted, and Nathan walked slowly through the ballroom. A few people looked confused. Some looked annoyed. A janitor? Here? But when he reached the piano and sat beside Olivia, everything else disappeared. He took over the melody. She followed on harmony. Together they finished the song. And when the final note lingered in the room like the scent of spring rain, the crowd was silent. Then someone began to clap. Then another. And then the room erupted in applause. But neither Olivia nor Nathan acknowledged it. They just looked at each other. And, for the first time, both of them smiled. After the gala, the music changed everything. Whispers spread. About the janitor, the CO, the song, the story behind it. But neither of them explained. They didn't need to. The music had already spoken. It started with a text. From Olivia's personal number, something Nathan had never expected to receive. "Olivia, can you meet me Saturday night at La Rouse at 7? Bring Lily if you'd like. I reserved the garden table." He read the message 3 times before believing it. La Rouse was one of the most exclusive restaurants in Manhattan. He'd once cleaned the outside windows there. The idea of stepping inside as a guest felt surreal. He texted back a simple, "Nathan will be there." That Saturday, he scrubbed his hands raw and wore the cleanest dress shirt he owned. Slightly faded but well-pressed. Lily wore her best sundress and a big bow in her curls. She clutched a crayon drawing in her hand. A new picture of Olivia playing piano with Nathan beside her, and Lily twirling in a ballerina skirt. They arrived at 6:58. A waiter greeted them with confusion. "Table 4? Nathan Carter," he said. The waiter checked the list. Blinked. "Oh, you're early, Ms. Hale's guest." His tone shifted instantly. "Right this way." They were led through a candlelit corridor to a secluded courtyard wrapped in ivy. Fairy lights strung overhead. A single table waited beneath a flowering trellis. Lily gasped. "It's like a fairy tale." Nathan had to agree. But as the minutes ticked by, Olivia didn't arrive. 7:05, 7:10, 7:25. Nathan tried not to check his phone. Maybe she was running late. Maybe something came up. At 7:32 he saw a text. "Olivia, are you on your way? I've been waiting at Café Monet." "Thought we said 7 there?" Nathan frowned. "Café Monet?" He scrolled back. No, her message clearly said La Rouse. He showed Lily. "See? I didn't imagine it." Lily squinted. "You think she got nervous and changed it?" Nathan didn't know. But he replied, "I'm at La Rouse. Table's still open if you want to join us." No reply. They waited until 8 o'clock. Then Nathan paid for their untouched desserts, took Lily's hand, and walked out. That night, he sat on the couch while Lily slept in his arms, still in her sundress. He stared at his phone, unsure what to think. It wasn't just a missed dinner. felt like a mischance. Maybe he'd imagined all of it, the connection, the warmth, the music. Maybe it was just a mistake. The next morning, a knock came at his door. He opened it to find Olivia, dressed in jeans, a blazer, and a look of guilt in her eyes. She held a small cake box in her hands and something else under her arm. A framed version of Lily's newest drawing. "I owe you both a huge apology," she said. "I typed La Rouse, but I told myself Café Monet so many times. I went there instead. I didn't even double-check. Stupid." Nathan leaned on the doorframe. "I thought maybe you changed your mind." "I didn't," she said softly. "I was just nervous." He folded his arms. "Nervous about dinner with a janitor?" "No," she replied. "Nervous about dinner with someone I might actually care about." That silenced him. She handed him the cake. "Chocolate with lavender. Lily mentioned it once. Hope she still likes it." He took it. "She does." Then Olivia held up the drawing in the frame. "Tell her this is going in my office." Nathan smiled. "She'll be over the moon." Olivia didn't leave. She stood awkwardly for a moment, then said, "I'm not good at this. I don't date. I don't let people in. But you didn't push. You just played." And I started breathing again. Nathan stepped aside. "Want to come in?" Olivia looked relieved. "Yes." Inside, Lily woke up and squealed with delight when she saw Olivia holding her drawing. "I thought you forgot us," she said, wrapping Olivia in a hug. Olivia hugged her back, gently. "I couldn't forget you, sweetheart. Not ever." They sat together, sharing cake in mismatched mugs, the framed drawing propped on the coffee table like a centerpiece. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm. It was real. That night, Nathan walked Olivia to the door. They paused in the hallway. "Thank you for coming," he said. "Thank you for letting me," she replied. There was a quiet moment between them. Not awkward, not rushed. Just honest. Then Olivia leaned in, pressed her lips softly to his cheek, and whispered, "I'd like to hear you finish the song. One more time." Nathan nodded. "I'll play it for you. Not as Daniel wrote it. Not as I added to it. But the way we lived it." She smiled. "I'd like that." Then she left. But this time not running from anything. Just walking toward something new. 6 months later, Hale Tech Tower looked the same on the outside, tall, pristine, cold glass and steel. But inside, something was different. The velvet rope around the grand piano was gone. In its place was a polished plaque mounted on the wall behind it. "For Olivia," composed by Daniel Hale, completed by Nathan Carter and Olivia Hale. In memory of music, loss, and everything we find again. The lobby now held monthly evening recitals. Small, intimate performances open to staff, guests, and anyone passing by. Music filled the halls again. So did laughter. And at the center of it all, always the janitor who used to clean in silence. That night, Nathan adjusted the collar of his black shirt. He wasn't wearing his janitor's uniform. He hadn't worn it in months. He now worked as director of community arts programs, a new department Olivia personally created, with full funding, to bring free music education into underserved schools across New York. Nathan didn't just design the curriculum, he taught it. And Lily? She was the youngest piano student in the program, and its loudest advocate. She stood beside him now, holding a little bouquet of white flowers, her curls bouncing as she grinned up at him. "You nervous?" she asked. Nathan chuckled. "A little." "She'll be here," Lily said confidently. "She always shows up for the music." Olivia arrived 10 minutes later, elegant in a simple navy dress, her hair pinned back, no security detail this time, just her. She nodded at Nathan, then bent down to kiss Lily's forehead. "Are those for me?" she asked, eyeing the flowers. "Nope," Lily teased. "They're for Daddy. He's the star tonight." Olivia laughed, something she did more freely now. "Then I'll sit in the front and cheer the loudest." And she did. Nathan sat at the piano as the lights dimmed slightly. A hush fell over the crowd. He took a breath, fingers resting on the keys, and glanced up, his eyes meeting Olivia's. He smiled. She smiled back, just a little. Then he began. The melody started familiar, Daniel's original theme, the notes composed from love and longing and hope. The audience listened quietly, reverently. But then, it changed. Halfway through, the rhythm softened. The chords shifted, warmer, deeper. Nathan added new variations, notes Olivia had never heard before. Notes he hadn't played for anyone else. It was still for Olivia. But now it wasn't a song about remembering. It was a song about becoming. The past blended with the present. Grief melted into something else. Something alive. He reached the final note, held it. Silence. Then applause broke through the lobby. Lily cheered the loudest. Olivia wiped a tear from her cheek, but she was smiling. After the performance, guests mingled with wine and soft conversation, but Nathan stayed by the piano. Olivia joined him quietly, standing by his side. "You changed the ending," she said. "I had to," he replied. "The song ended with loss. But I'm not in that place anymore." Olivia studied him for a moment. Then she whispered, "Neither am I." He took her hand. This time she didn't pull away. They sat together at the bench. She rested her fingers lightly on the lower keys. "I used to think letting someone in again would betray his memory," she admitted. Nathan nodded. "I used to think loving anyone else would erase mine." They looked at each other. But the love in their eyes wasn't about erasing anything. It was about building something new. Weeks later, the headlines quietly changed. CEO Olivia Hale funds free citywide arts initiative with former Janitor-turned-director Nathan Carter. Love in a minor key. The unexpected music that brought healing to Manhattan's Ice Queen. But the two of them never chased attention. They simply lived. Nathan still played most nights. Sometimes just for Olivia. Sometimes for Lily, who liked to dance barefoot across the marble. And sometimes for himself because music had returned to his soul. Because she had. A small, private rooftop in Brooklyn. Fairy lights strung above. A baby grand piano wheeled out by a friend. A modest dinner table set for 3. Nathan adjusts his sleeves. Lily stands beside Olivia holding her hand. He walks toward her, holding a simple black velvet box. "I don't have a grand speech," he says, voice shaking a little. "Just a question." He kneels. Olivia's eyes well with tears. He opens the box. "Will you let me keep writing this song with you? Forever?" She laughs through her tears. "Only if I get to write the bridge." Nathan grins. "Deal." She pulls him up and kisses him. Slow, soft. "Sure." Lily squeals. "Does this mean I get to call her mom?" They laugh. Nathan nods. "Yeah, baby, it does."